So guys, this is a rally that happened today in Ikeja where Tinubu supporters came out saying it's Tinubu or nothing. You know, they like to steal from the obedience because obedience say it's Peter Obi or nothing. Now you can see some of them there wearing t-shirt where it's written it's Tinubu or nothing. And how do you interpret this? This is just campaign, early campaign. They've started campaigning. Tomorrow they will want to look for who to hold as an scapegoat. So guys, that's to tell you that Tinubu is afraid of Peter Obi. Now I'm going to allow you to take a look at an activist who has come out to speak about how desperate Tinubu is to return to power, come next election. Just take your time and watch this video. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the bell notification. Now take a look.
We are watching closely. There are so many errors. The desperation to return into power in 2027 has taken the center stage, relegating good governance behind the scene. And we are hoping and praying whether the twist of fate that we could get something that we had previously anticipated or hoped for. Because what we have now is something that no one had previously envisaged, believing that Bola Ahmed Tinubu, as they had previously said, was the Jagaban, a man who could muster his own strength, who had the capacity to make some strategic inputs without being cowed by the whims and caprices of other political leaders and masters. But what we're saying is that the man he has not been able to give us what we had previously anticipated. The idea of insecurity we had hoped for that would have been brought to a logical conclusion, knowing that the man is not from the Fulani extract, or perhaps is not a Muslim or religious bigot or a Muslim extremist, that we say, okay, perhaps for being from the south, a Yoruba man who could put that in abeyance. Very little or no sources have been recorded in that direction. And then the issue of the economy is a double jeopardy on its own part. So we are just hoping and praying that by the twist of fate, things may take a new turn. But with the rising of 2027 politics, I doubt if there's light on the end of this tunnel.
And how will you assess his economic reforms that he says is really transforming the lives of Nigerians, that prices of goods are trending down and inflation is dropping? So how would you assess if you say you are not impressed so far?
The question I've asked in time past, where were all of these metrics before they came into power? That's where we start from. We cannot just say perhaps, because when Bola Ahmed Tinubu took over power, we had inflation, but it wasn't as bad as it was. It came when because the man practically got into office, and without even getting into the office, just from the stadium, just said first was gone. And with that singular statement, Nigeria was truncated into serious poverty. People now discovered that they were only going to work for transport, no longer to earn a living. And the challenge became enormous for the average Nigerian man, especially those on fixed wages. For those in business, we manage to, at least, whatever you put on the system, they add profit on top to progress. But those who were on fixed wages, it became a thing of life and death. And when you say inflation is about 128%, and it now reduced to, I think they turned out the value for 20-something, 120-something%. And I ask, if you understand what food inflation is, it means that what you usually buy for 100 naira now cost 120 naira out of no other factor but pure economic pressure. And all of a sudden, they have reduced it to 120, from 280 naira to 227 naira. And you say we should be celebrating? Is that what we're supposed to be celebrating? When it thought we met at 100 naira, and we were hoping that it could be brought down to, let's say, 70 naira, 80 naira, or 100 or 90 naira or thereabout, it went up and later just removed a fraction, and we should be celebrating. They say naira, the dollar is now stable. And I begin to ask, for the fact that the thing is available but not affordable, is that what we should celebrate? So it's the facts and figures are out there. And I observe the desperation of this current regime to want to always twist the figures and the narratives, put on our statistics that is no reflection of reality, and make the people look as though they do not know what's happening. You create out policies to alleviate poverty. Then you come back to explain the policies to us. We are not seeing it, we are not feeling it. And you make it look as though we are ungrateful. Perhaps we need to wait. If you say there's incubation time for the implementation of your policies, what about the incubation time for insecurity, the incubation time for hunger, the incubation time also for poor education? Nigeria today has the largest number of people living without electricity across the world. We are home to poverty. We are home to, not like all of these things were absent. We're not there before it came. But we're hoping to get a clear departure from what it used to be. We are still here and you want us to still celebrate. So that's been a challenge. And we are looking closely at the government. Is there any hope? Many people are saying we need a change, and they say yes. We're also looking at the possibilities of a change, because the man appears to be a sit-tight president. Can we really reposition and rewire to get the kind of governance we desire? We're looking at the institutions that we could rely upon. We're looking at INEC. We're looking at the security infrastructure. We're looking at the judiciary. Can these institutions engage in the electoral process and produce a leader that could be a reflection of the yearnings and aspirations of Nigerian people? All of those are questions we are asking.
Now you talked about INEC. How would you rate the former INEC chairman, and then, of course, the expectation on the incoming INEC chairman?
The former INEC chairman, I could say, without missing words, was a colossal failure. Because what I saw in 2023 was a repositioning of the Electoral Act in 2022. And then there was a new body of laws that were put together to ensure that Nigeria could get an election that could be a semblance of what the people actually desired. We had watched out for electoral rewiring and reforms, whereby they said they're going to be electronic transmission of results. That yes, right from the polling unit, results are going to be transmitted directly or directed to the server where Nigerians can sit at home, both home and abroad, and watch as the values are being churned up, insulating it from outright manipulation of results, whereby ballot box national will not be a thing of the past, relegated to the past. We saw when they came out with the idea of saying now INEC brought out his own laws. Funny enough, when the election took part, we now discovered that INEC haven't said there's going to be electronic transmission. Now said it can no longer hold. There was a collusion between the Nigerian Independent Electoral Commission and the judiciary. We took INEC to court, and the judiciary said that the laws that INEC had put in place were no longer permissible, that electronic transmission of results is not enshrined in the Electoral Act, it's only in the bylaw, and INEC has it. As INEC is empowered by law to make rules and regulations for the election. But the rules and regulations that INEC made were not admissible in court. So it became a dichotomy. There were many other issues laced around the electoral process that made it a hoax, whereby INEC did the election. Today, if you carry INEC to court, INEC does not appear. INEC is irresponsible. INEC does not bring out agents to say, they don't bring witness. INEC don't have witness. If they call out a result, and even in clear, broad daylight, you see clear discrepancy between the results in the ward and the ones being announced in the local government. And you say, INEC, these things, there's clear discrepancy. They will tell you to go to court. And when you get to court, they will begin to focus on trivialities, focus on the technicalities, rather than the legality of the matter. And they begin to give you judgment. There's no reflection of justice. So there's been a collusion between INEC and the judiciary, whereby the INEC will conduct a faulty, dubious, and utterly manipulated election and quickly hand it over to the judiciary. And the judiciary now becomes the new empire who will now focus on it. So that has been the collaboration, the collusion, very unholy, very dubious. We saw what happened in Edo State, where it was widely acclaimed to be one of the most fraudulent elections in broad daylight. And there was outright manipulation of results. You could see that this thing do not tally, but yet the man was reinstated. So I want to say INEC alone, but INEC and the judiciary appears to not be the deciders of the fate of Nigerian people. And so for INEC, for me, it has failed by all measures and standard. Because once we're unable to get it right, it becomes practically impossible for us to predict the future. Because if this current administration knows that it's we the people who will decide who will be the next leader, they won't lead the way they are leading. Because they know that you and I do not have the capacity to determine who will go there or will not go there. That's why they are leading and they are taking the people for a ride.
Talking about the judiciary now, in the light of all that you've said, and we're approaching 2027, what's the hope? Has anything changed about the judiciary? And how are we going to go about 2027?
My calculation, there are factors that necessitate ringing and outright manipulation of results. What made it effortlessly easy in 2023 was that there was a division in the opposition votes. And if there was a clear dichotomy between who wants Tinubu who wants the change, I think it's going to be a bit easier because there are pressures that people may fall under that makes it practically impossible for them to engage in the outright manipulation of results, whereby the people who are against the establishment are in huge numbers. It becomes difficult for those things to be carried out in broad daylight without some form of strong resistance. So my calculation is that it's not just going to be changed from the institution. We are hoping that the people will be more educated and enlightened, haven't seen the effects of poor governance on the life of the average Nigerian out there in the streets, that they're able to at least rise up to their consciousness and say, no, enough is enough, because what we are seeing now, there's no light at the end of this tunnel. I dare say it's no longer a tunnel, it's not a toilet. So we have to rise to the occasion and engage meaningfully and see how we could just fight the system and produce a result out of sheer desperation, because the system will have to opt for a change. So we are not hoping that they will obviously gift us or hand us over a change. We are hoping that we could fight our way and force the system to change. And that's where we are hoping and praying that perhaps we're able to get the opposition voices together, because it will be a clear attempt to scuttle the opposition platforms, to see the PDP disarray, the Labour Party disarray. It was even funny when the New Nigerian People Party at one time last year came out and suspended the only governor they had. And I began to wonder, yet what does happen? If this country is not issue, how can a party come forward and say they are suspending the only governor in the platform? And they said yes, and they all celebrated it. We see even the Labour Party that came up, that gave out a strong opposition to the APC in the last election. Even the only governor they had, Alex Oti, could not use the Labour Party to control local government election. He had to go and borrow the Labour Party. That's why how broken. Everybody knows what happened in the PDP, how sickling it has become. So there's been a desperation to kill and destroy the opposition platforms, so that in 2027 we're going to have a one-party state. So that when Tinubu does well, does not do well, it will be the only choice you have. And that's why I also commend the efforts of those people in the ADC and the coalition they are putting together. And hopefully we could have a platform that could still maintain some level of electoral integrity that we could use. Because the absence of options in democracy is the death of any democratic process.
All right, you talked about the ADC. Is ADC, do you think they are properly positioned to upstage the APC come 2027?
Yes, they are doing their best. It's just that the factors that will necessitate a critical change has not been brought upon us because it's also anchored on timing. When the election gets extremely close, let's say we'll hit like 2026 and the party primaries are done, candidates are being brought forward, we'll now have a clear picture of what's expected. And persons who are decamping now are decamping for personal and obvious reasons. And then when the election comes closer, because this one we are seeing now is first acceleration of the process. But sooner or later, we're going to get the true, when the time is at hand, we'll now know exactly how the process. But so far, so good. They've been doing their best. We're seeing gales of defection, especially in the northern and the southwestern part of the country. We've seen many politicians openly identify with the platform, knowing fully well that the establishment still has the capacity to intimidate them using the security apparatus, the FCC, the anti-graft agencies, but there's still some level of dispassion. There's a level of they have courage. They have courage, and to stand against a very territorial government as we have it today, that is very dispassionate in its approach. They have done well. They have done well. We should give them courage. We should salute their courage and see how it pans out and how the whole thing process shapes out in the coming days.
You seem to be hard on the government. Let's look at the ministers, because I know that some of them, Nigerians, have been saying this is doing well, this is doing well, this is doing well. For you, let's look at some of the persons that have excelled, impressed you under this administration.
The ministers, to a large extent, many of them, I know these ministers, when we brought into office, they have the sole purpose of implementing the plans and aspirations of their principal. I dare say, because that's how I've understood governments to operate. That when a man is elected, it brings out his persons who understand his trajectory of governance to implement all of those policies that he had previously promised. Because many of the ministers were not elected, they are appointed by a man who is elected. So they are honor bound and duty bound to express the intent and purpose of the principal. And there are a few of them who have done well because many of them have now, because they know Bola Ahmed Tinubu is disposed strongly to 2027 and the rhetorics of politics. Many of them have subjugated good governance associated with politics. But for example, I could take, for example, the Minister of Interior, Honorable, I think, Olubomi Tunji Ojo. The man, to a large extent, has done relatively well. I'm not a fan of the APC, neither am I a fan of this government, but I've seen his scorecard. At least I remember he spent about 3 weeks decongesting over 2,000 applications for international visas, which was unprecedented in the history of Nigeria. Passports. And then we saw how he has introduced the electronic visas. We saw how perhaps there's now an issue of contactless application for passport, whereby you don't need to be present, and then you could probably get your application details online. And then Mufo also watched where there's some persons who were previously convicted, about 2,000 of them with the option of fine that couldn't pay fine, and they were causing congestion of the security of the prisons. The man practically went in and paid fine for over 2,000 persons to be released. I also saw the promotions he did of about 50,000 persons in these last 2 years. So the man has been doing well. And what makes me single him out is the ability to engage in governance without dwelling on the narratives of politics. Because we see some other very funny characters in government who perhaps they say they've done well, but whether you like it or not, they've subjugated good governance for politics, and then they speak from both sides of their mouths. One thing I want to say clearly, Nigeria is in comatose, is in bad shape, is heading for the rocks. Not because we do not have politicians with intellect, not because we do not have politicians who lack ambition. What we have is politicians who do not have the integrity and character to hold and wield power. Because when a politician does not have character, well, character is what restrains and controls power. If you have power and you do not have character, the politician becomes very unpredictable and I dare say dangerous. And if we're able to enthrone this kind of politicians without character, whereby we have politicians who talk from both sides of their mouth, who do not anchor, who perhaps do not even give regards to justice, because when there's no character, you cannot be bound by justice, fairness, and equity. You're not being driven by primordial sentiments of personal benefits. and then you see them buying to affluence, buying to power, buying to self-aggrandizement, and all these characters, what we've seen in characters like Nyesom Wike, who have been a tool in the destruction of the People's Democratic Party, practically holding the opposition back, ensuring that there's no opposition voice or dissenting voice in Nigerian democracy. We see the bragado, which a man comes in public domain and begin to speak about how he has fought this, how he has fought that, as though good governance is all about political infighting and imbroglio. They said yes. Some people have said the man has been tying rules, and I asked to what expense and cost. A project that will cost over 200 million, you appropriate 2 billion to it, and the project is completed, does not hold the value, does not churn out the value, does not retain such value, and want us to celebrate such a reckless deployment of resources. And we saw the sheer rascality. It's something we should not celebrate, because I tell people most likely, I said every generation has their own battle. For those persons who were Nigerians before the return of democracy, before we became independent in 1960, their own struggle in the lives of the Enauru was to ensure that we chase out the British government and give us an indigenous form of government. Let us see who can lead and rule ourselves. Those were their battle. They lived, they fought, and they died for it. When independence came in 1960, the battle now changed, because after the First Republic, it was truncated by the military era. People who lived in that era, their aim and aspiration had changed. They now said, oh, what we need is a system of government that will be able to at least meet the needs and aspirations of people, and not the military dictatorship, because it was widely acclaimed that democracy is the only form of government, is the best, and the best of government that can really meet the needs of the people. Their own battle after that 1960 was to ensure that they hand over democracy as one of the best system of government to the Nigerian people. They lived, they fought, and they died. In the return of this Fourth Republic, after it was achieved in 1999 and democracy was instituted as the mainstay, we now discover very clearly that the democracy that was given to us is inherently dysfunctional, cannot serve, and cannot meet the needs of the people. Our own challenge now is to ensure that we reposition, we retool, and we rejig the Nigerian democracy, so that we will hand over a democracy to our children that can serve and meet their needs. For this same cause, many of us are willing to fight, we're willing to live, and we're willing to die for. So that's where we are. And one of the major inhibitants to this kind of democracy is politics without character.
Talking about your reference to Wike and then destruction of opposition party. Which party are you referring to? And then how did he destroy the opposition party you are talking about?
There's been a direct drag. They told me it's... No, when they do these kind of things, they tell us, oh, it's all politics. There's never a time political systems. Everybody must do everything within their possible power to ensure that the opposition does not thrive, and then we must continue this. And there are some patterns, there are some tactics in politics that I can best describe as criminal. It's not anchored on morality. It's not anchored on good governance. It's just shared desperation and wickedness. Because when you say you have funded the party, you are the one who owns the soul of the party, you come at the public domain to boast that I made this one fail. If not for me, this one would not have won. I brought this national chairman, the man misbehaved, I kicked him out. I brought this party, this one can't survive. And you hold the party. You see people, characters in the video. You go to courts and you collect all form of scrupulous judgment just to truncate pure democratic processes. It's totally uncalled for, because we've seen his actions directly and indirectly. The man has not said no, he's not the one. The man has not denied that he's not the one frustrating the growth and development of the party. And we saw how they frustrated the People's Democratic Party, the Labour Party, the New Nigerian People Party. There's no one that's been insulated from this high-handedness of Nyesom Wike.
But why do you think that the People's Democratic Party is not able to suspend him?
When they say it's not
above the party.
No, it's not above the party. The man has the resources of the federal government with which he used to fund the officers of the party. And those officers of the party are willing and ready to do his bidding at any point in time. We saw Sam Daddy, who went to contest in Imo State. For crying out loud, everybody knows the constitution of the People's Democratic Party. A man leaves his position to contest. And after he lost, he didn't even spend 2 more hours after the result was called. He quickly ran to Abuja to say he had never resumed. Where exactly is that thing happening? And the man goes to court to correct a form of dubious judgment just to ensure that he stays himself in power. We saw the body language of Damago. We saw the organizing secretary Bature. So when we look at all of these things and the way they are taking shape and the way they get the support of the establishment, you know fully well that they share desperation on the part of the people, the APC, using Nyesom Wike as a tool to hold the opposition platform to ransom. We saw what happened in the Labour Party, where Peter Obi is practically kicked out. Now he's struggling to find footing in the ADC coalition. It was so bad that even the governor of Labour Party. It's people practically outside. It's not factionalized. So when we now make it look as though we are not aware where the influence is coming from, we are not being true to ourselves. And if people continue in this trajectory to play this kind of dubious and dirty politics, we have ourselves to blame, because good governance will be totally sacrificed in the years to come. And we're going to celebrate characters like this. It becomes very disenchanting, because people will now focus more on politics and the desperation to retain power without the interest of improving the lives of the people.
If you look at the FCT, a lot of people are saying, those in FCT are saying, Mr. Project is doing very well, and they've never seen anything like this in the FCT before. What do you think?
You know, the minister is a theatrics of the media. He calls them every single day for press briefing. Wike has had more press briefing than the president. Gather all the other ministers together. Wike has spoken to the media more. He has them on his payrolls. They are his cronies, allies, and surrogates. He calls them at beck and call. They go to his house. They don't invite him. They go. The last interview Wike did in channels, they extended it to 2 hours. How can the politics today was supposed to be a 1 hour program? You invite somebody because the man can talk and he has so many stories to tell. The man now goes there and yammer currently for 2 straight hours. So when the man has so much resources, the truth is there's so much resources at the disposal of this man. Mind you, aside Lagos State and Rivers State, the FCT is the next state that generates the highest internal generated revenue. And the man has headed Rivers State. The Rivers State now is practically in his pocket. And when the governor there decided to misbehave, not wanting to support the terms of agreement, he kicked him out and brought a sole administrator. When sole administrator was done dealing with the man, they brought him back as a humble pie.
He's not the president.
We all know how those things happened, and then the influences that took part. What's the interest of the president in Rivers State? If the president didn't want such to happen, we know the advice he took. We know the battles that were fought and lost. So we're not going to act as though we are ignorant of all these things, because those ignorance in itself prevents us from assessing truth. So for the man to have so much resources at his disposal, and now he's controlling the war chest of the FCT, and the FCT has now been pulled from the single treasury account, so the man can spend at will, and yet there's now a big dichotomy between the rich and the poor, the haves and the haves not. Mind you, all the money that was removed from subsidy was being handed over to politicians to ensure that they could. So the people are now paying to ensure that the political leaders and masters have more resources at their disposal to continue to weaponize poverty and the machinations of power. So when the man calls you and gives you millions of naira, what do you expect? The media must pay their bills. The media must buy equipment. The media has bills to pay. And as such, it's practically impossible for them not to sing his praises. But for many of us who know the truth, who are called on the principle of fair hearing, we know that all of these things won't last and they won't stand the test of time. Because sooner or later, okay, for example, now you've heard the allegation that was being brought forward by the Sarah reporters. They said that the man has buildings in Florida that was not declared in the Code of Conduct Bureau before he became government. That the properties he had in Florida, obviously about 3 buildings, 3 different properties that was being bought, and then under the surrogates and cronies of his family members. And why is the media not reporting it? We saw recently Uche Naji that was heated up vehemently, and the man was forced to resign, making it the first minister to resign. If not for the crucifixion of the media, the Nigerian media, the fourth essence of the realm, do you think the man would have resigned? Do you think he would have willingly come out to say no? Because the media was able to buttress that point. They brought it. It was an issue being discussed. But why is Wike's not finding traction in media? Because these people have resources to cover whatever actions and inactions they've done. I heard it was even reported that the man has quickly reached out to the Code of Conduct Bureau to bring out the file so that I can quickly go and re-edit the asset declaration he did to capture those properties. But unfortunately, those forms have been submitted to the EFCC. But we also know controls the EFCC. So all of these battles is just a cycle we are round in it. And the man, the problem I have is that the actions and inactions of this man is further nudging. It's not just destroying the present, it's also destroying the future. Because when Nigeria continue to churn out politicians with that character, then there's no hope for the Nigerian future. Because as long as the new generation politicians begin to see that right is might, that might is right rather, that whoever has the power could decide what is right and what is wrong, then there's no possibility of you wanting to turn towards the issues of truth. Those values and virtues practically mean nothing. People now want to get whatever they have and ensure that they use it for their personal aggrandizement. It's not so. All of this narrative needs to be repositioned. That's why we cannot continue to going to lip sync those persons who have power because they have it and they wield it recklessly. Let us begin to enthrone civility in our policy. Let us begin to enthrone characters. Those persons who are dispassionate in bringing home the dividends of democracy. Those people who want to be seen as examples. Because what we see in Nigerian democracy is that when they express this high level of political recklessness, after some years they'll come back and they start begging. A couple of days ago, I think a month ago now, I watched when Olusegun Obasanjo was saying that, where it's going now is not very far. When I think it was being paid visit by the ADC group, that where it's going to is not very close, at least it's getting close to his grave, that he wants to ensure that Nigeria works. I looked at him and I laughed. And I said, it was the man whom Nigerian Fourth Republic was handed over to. He had the capacity to reposition and ensure that Nigeria has sustainable democracy. What did he do? We saw the level of recklessness and shared. He portrayed well, he was the leader and so heir of the People's Democratic Party. And today he's regretting. We saw how Babangida came out and wrote a book and was also regretting. So now later, Tinubu will also come out and start regretting. Even this year, some week, he will come out and start regretting. But do we have to regret before we make change? Do we have to walk earnestly in this dreaded path before we begin to recollect our steps? So for me, I just believe that these people should not be celebrated. We should call a spade a spade. Nigeria cannot progress without values and virtues. If we cannot anchor our democracy on justice, fairness, truth, and equity, there is no hope for the Nigerian people. If politicians cannot relegate politics to the background and focus on governance and development, there is nothing to hope for, because we cannot continue with this trajectory.
They say the buck stops at the table of the president. Do you blame any minister who is not probably doing what he's supposed to do or showing off, unlike what we see in other climes? Do we blame the minister?
No, I will predict sooner or later that if Tinubu does not cut to size, Nyesom Wike will become a heavy political liability as we roll over into 2027. Because I've evaluated the man's political. You see, many people may say, oh, he has been able to subdue the River State people. Now, River State is in the pocket of Tinubu, and I laugh. Because I'm from the South, and I know the resolute spirit of an average Southerner, especially many of us who are from the Niger and Delta areas. See, the calculation to say that because Nyesom Wike has consistently or completely bullied Sinful Bara and the River State people, putting a SWAT administrator, that the vote will go where it pleases, is a far cry from reality. The people may actually revolt. They may express their dissenting opinion. They may punish Tinubu for the actions and inactions of Nyesom Wike. And because the media is singing the praise of the man does not mean that the people are in tandem with the media. Whether you like it or not, the man must have done a few things in Abuja. At least there's some infrastructure project that could be tied to his name. But there are also some drawbacks, the issues of insecurity, the issue of properties that have been confiscated by people's property that have been confiscated. We've seen the humongous sum being paid for land rent. We see some of this. Many people too are also irritated by the way the man has handled power. And all of those things will be brought to bear in the 2027 election. So let them do their calculation well, let them do their plus and minus. Let them know whether Wike is truly a plus or a minus, whether the man is adding or is subtracting. Because they may want to fall flat for the resources at his disposal, because the man has so many loyalists on his payroll. They want to fall flat because the man has picked the ministry where there's resources, and the man has a state that's consistently backrolling him. If you take all of these things out, is the man truly a liability or an asset to the APC? Because many of the people who are very opposed against this government, many of them find reasons in the personality and disposition of Nyesom Wike. That's why there's nobody in the opposition today who has not fought dirty with Nyesom Wike. He even comes out and tells you, I deal with this one. This one I made a Tamboa fee, I made a Atiku fee, I made this one fee. Further polarizing the opposition against the current city government. And to have somebody of that nature to begin to say the president should be happy with, I strongly believe is you sit down within the caucus of the APC. And there are many APC members I've heard who have expressed reservations about the minister. To say this man cannot continue like this. It's like a bull in the China shop. This kind of character should not be encouraged. Sooner or later, he may come around to haunt us. River State is the only state is going to give to us. And whether I like it or not, if Sinful Bara is willing to give us, he has no other states. And he currently is controlling the state. Sinful Bara, not Nyesom Wike. And then the desperation to say you want to hand over Abuja votes to Bola Ahmed Tinubu may backfire, because Abuja is one of the most cosmopolitan areas in Nigeria. You could watch the voting patterns of people in Lagos in the Lekki axis, where people can feed themselves, especially in Abuja too, there's cosmopolitan. The vote cannot be controlled, because you practically can't come to the polling unit and bully people who are educated, people who are oriented, who are enlightened, to say no. It's only in the villages where there's poverty, abject poverty, weaponized poverty, or in those areas where votes can count, that a character like this will be needed. The water side, where they will carry the votes and they go and hide it in one bush, and the votes will begin to rise like Gary after they soaked it for 2 days. All of those things can happen in a cosmopolitan area like Abuja, or perhaps Lagos, where people have the ability to express themselves on the ballot and maintain consistency in managing their votes. So the man will not be able to give them the result they desire, whether they like it or not. The man is just only threatening away their resources, and if they are not careful, we bring them more embarrassment than plus, because going forward, a lot of campaign of calumny is already rising, brewing in the dark about the man's sheer recklessness, the misappropriation of resources. And then when these things are brought to light, and the man faced to resign, just like Mr. Nnamdi had done, it will become a real thorn in the flesh of the...
But these are all allegations. There has not been any proving case.
Uche Nnamdi's was also an allegation. They said it was alleged that the man had forged the certificate. It wasn't proven before he resigned. And for the fact that this one has been brought forward, the allegations that are very potent. And one of such is the Florida this two-story, $2 million two-story apartment has been linked to the name of Jason Wiki that was not declared during his access verification. It may be an allegation, but the man has not come out to say, no, that thing don't exist. He only said it's political wishing, that sooner or later they will get tired. But I dare say, as the facts and figures continue to emerge from the shadows, the man will be cornered and boxed. And the earlier these leaders and masters of the APC get to cut him, get rid of him, it will drag them into the mud, I can assure you.
Talk about the green areas and the fact that he's been tampering with the green areas, and it's not been in the best interest for the president and Abuja master plan. What do you have to say?
That's, for me as an environmentalist, I've come to understand that these green areas are very critical in ensuring that we have a clean and safe environment, because the environment is intrinsically linked to our health. And with the disappearance of all these green areas, it's a threat to residents of Abuja. It shows the man's lack of understanding of what sustainable development is all about. And besides that, many of these green areas are critical. They provided critical employment for many persons within the residents. There are many of those places that he has them reallocated to his cronies and surrogates, who has provided job and means of livelihood to so many persons. It is not unrelated to the high level of insecurity we now witness in Abuja. Because even when there was insecurity, widespread insecurity in the northeast and north central, Abuja was not as unsafe as it is today. We saw the killing of the Somtuku, that already arrested journalist who was gruesomely murdered in our home. You see, today Abuja is now a host to thieves, criminals, 419s, and all sorts of crime and criminalities, gangsterism, who disengage people of their belongings, they draw blood at will, and the city is not as safe. Whereas good governance is anchored on the security of lives and property, before you focus on welfare. And yet, and I begin to wonder, he says building, carrying out a flyover project, he's doing roads. Is it the people who are mourning that will not appreciate those roads? Is it the person who cannot sleep with his two eyes closed that wake up in the morning to appreciate those flyovers? For me, it shows the man's lack of understanding of what good governance is in accordance or in tandem with international best practices. So those green areas is a clear statement that the man does not understand what a modern city like Abuja ought to be. It's a shame that the man is not being guided properly by the presidency. And I strongly believe that before all these things not be brought to a board, the man may end up embarrassing himself in the long run. And for us, we'll continue to say the best that we can. Many people who understand, for environmentalists and environmental experts, that these green areas are crucial to survival. They are crucial in ensuring that there's sustainability in health in the residents of Abuja. And then when you say those projects, it does, like I said earlier, many of those things do not retain the value. They are mainly contracts aimed and targeted at self-funding state resources. And aside that, there's nothing left of it.
Do you think that the president can compel him to resign or sack him?
You see, when you have a cancer, it's better to lose the part of the body that's cancerous than to lose the whole body. And when it gets to that stage, when they get to realize that the man is indeed a cancer or a thorn to the flesh of the APC, letting him go will not be a simple deal.
Looking at 2027, can President Tinubu be stopped?
Yes, the threat will only arise if the oppositions are able to unite themselves on a veritable platform. I've said it time without number, that what they are hoping is that Tinubu becomes the only opposition, or perhaps if we have an opposition, let it be scattered oppositions, whereby we have like three major candidates, like Atiku on the ballot, Peter Obi on the ballot, Goodluck Ebele Jonathan being woken up from the sleeps to come and run, to be on the ballot too, thereby putting plurality of opinions and candidates. If such a thing happens, then they will not be able to deploy the resources. They have humongous resources, and then the security, the infrastructure of state security, be the police, the DSS, or the military, to bully voters and oppress them, and perhaps just ring it in their favor. But if we have a united opposition, whereby perhaps we say, let's say, a Peter Obi and an Atiku unanimously synergizing on a platform going against the APC, where we also know that with the death of Buhari, President Muhammadu Buhari, that the Atiku now stands as the most prominent leader in the North, having gotten the backing of the vocal voices like El-Rufai, that the North may likely want to go one way, because this government are proven to be very nepotistic in its appointment and allotment of resources. We saw how humongous resources have been deployed in favor of Lagos State, where the man has rewritten all the tax laws to ensure that Lagos State benefits paramountly, and all the humongous projects, starting with the Coastal Road down to the renovation of the Murtala Mohammed Airport that was copying 712 billion, to renovation of the 10 million bridge, to the gauge train station, and all the appointment of political oppositions. They've all been targeted and tailored to Lagos State. And all of those tailoring is because the man has seen Lagos State as his own private property. Because right from when he became president, when he became governor, he had practically held the economy of Lagos in his pocket, determined who will become governor, even after donkey years after he had left. So anything that goes to Lagos, he sees it as going to his own personal farm. So that's why he wants to tailor Nigerian resources and put them in Lagos so they can go back to Lagos according to control. Notwithstanding, He will also ensure that he reduces and breaks, demoralizes the Nigerian democracy, so that if he comes back in 2027, after 2027, he will determine who will become the next president unfold, just as he had done in Lagos. So that's why it's only the Northerners that we want to say also the political dilemma. Because many have said, oh, Shadrach, you that is a Southerner, a vocal Southerner voice, why are you not speaking against the interests of the South? Will it not be good for us to have two Southern to complete their tenure? And I asked them, since Tinubu from the South, my Southern brother has been president, tell me one thing I have benefited from him that a Northerner did not benefit. Because the same sentiment holds for Christian-Muslim tickets. When they said, oh, Shetima is a Muslim, Shedrack don't support him, they must have a Christian. Can I ask them, what did Professor Yemi Osinbajo give to me as a Christian when he was president, when he was vice president as a Christian? Even Bible cover, I didn't say Bible cover I didn't get to show that, oh, the vice president is a Christian. So why do we want to pay? All of these things are tools being used by politics. He has no anchor, he has no reality on good governance, whether it's a Muslim, whether it's a Christian, as long as we're able to punish failure. That's most important. Punish failure, punish clueless governance. Nigeria will never be able to make headway.
All right, come to 2027. Who would you support if the choice were to be yours to make?
I could say, oh, I want to support one Mr. Ayo Balogun or Mr. Kemi Timothy, because the man has the requisite competence and character. I've seen him, I know him. But that man may just be one man in my streets. It's like the context of, say, the most beautiful woman in Nigeria. The most beautiful woman in Nigeria may just be having 2 children in her husband's house, trying to manage life. It's the most beautiful woman among those that presented themselves in the competition. Let us be aware of that. So if we're talking of who will be the next Nigerian president, it's on those people that we know can contest and win. Not just because I have an opinion that this man is the best and is in his house. Among the candidates that can win, we only know there are only 3, because they've been on the ballot before, they've tested the waters, and they have a national spread, which is Goodluck Jonathan, Peter Obi, and Atiku. And among these 3, the advantage is clear for Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, because he's from the north, and it's easy for the northerners to mobilize to displace a SATA candidate, that for a SATA candidate to get votes, to displace a fellow SATA candidate. And so that's, for me, I would say Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, because the man, to a large extent, has also been a vice president, as he understands the nuances of the Nigerian political terrain. He knows what is needful, he knows what is obtainable, he knows where the team pinches, and he has the clout and the capacity to mobilize the needed votes. And he has the personality to battle power with the desperate all-ruling APC, the All Progressive Congress, currently ruling in Nigerian democracy. But if the other candidates are not willing to support him, then it's fait accompli. The whole thing will fall down to flat and Tinubu will return. So I hope that when he clinches the ticket, he's able to get the support of all other opposition aspirants to stand behind him and support him in this battle, because that's the only choice for Nigeria.
So guys, let's end this session with some of the headlines on the social media. I want to start with Barrister Efion's tweet on the Twitter space. He said, "Can we see the certified true copy of purported court order? There's nothing in law that justifies such restriction." This is coming after the police has issued warning against tomorrow's scheduled protest. Now, the Nigerian police wrote and said, "Police urge protest group to respect court order, warn against hijackers, punitive measures await offenders." So this is ahead of pro Nnamdi Kanu release protest that is to happen tomorrow, and many Nigerians are in support. I mean, people you least expected are coming out to show their support for Nnamdi Kanu's pro Nnamdi Kanu protest that is going to kick off tomorrow. Anyway, it's just for tomorrow. And now the police is trying to say the court has issued an order, and Barrister Efiong is saying, show us a copy of the order you got from the court. So, you know, the police just came out to write something here. You know, the Tinubu's government, nothing is always done following due process. They just came here to write, and he's saying, Efiong is telling them, show us the copy you got from the police. There's nothing to show for that. Anyway, guys, that is it. Let me read some of the reactions from Nigerians, you know. There is a tweet here by CSP Benjamin Hundehin, and the headline there is Integrity Youth Alliance urges Sowore. Integrity Youth Alliance urges Sowore to obey court order restricting protests. Can you imagine? And this person said, going through the comments here, you would know why Nigeria is how it is today. Let's see. This man is the oppressive government who never worry killing going on in Nigeria by jihadist terrorists they imported into the country, but will always feel jittering whenever people want to conduct a peaceful protest. And this person say the same police that refused to obey court order on the stoppage of illegal tint permit until they saw a certified true copy wants people to act based on their imaginative court order banning protests, a constitutionally guaranteed right. This person say, how is it that the public keeps on questioning police motives on whatever moves taken? This is so much doubt about the motives of the Nigerian police. However, we have so many institutions of Nigeria who have never earned public respect or dignity. Nigerian police needs to redeem its image. This person said, hot from Showore's protest factory floor, introducing nnamdi kanu, free nnamdi kanu now, the newest FMCG on activist market. After previous bestsellers like Revolution Now, Take It Back, etc. etc. didn't quite meet sales target. Anyway, this person is just making some caricature here. This person, no police officer or any security with a living conscience will fight against tomorrow's protest because it's more set up if they miss it. If they mess it up, it can turn to revolution, which I doubt if security in Nigeria can withstand a million of citizens, that say no to injustice. Nigerian police, a certified true copy of the court order is needed. Nothing in the constitution makes such provision for restriction on protest. We want to see the court order. If not, this is a waste of your time because the protest is a constitutional right. Another person here say, where did the jobless guy get the black market order from? These guys, they always fear any kind of protest. Lazy people are now running helter-skelter, talking about fictitious court order that only exists in their warped imagination. Show us the CTC of the order on a no fit stop them. And no fit stop the protest. This person say, if court orders were respected in Nigeria, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu name would have been called freedom. I think this makes sense. If court orders are obeyed in Nigeria, hey, this person is really on point. This other person say they will all cry tomorrow. Police, just set aside. The storm is coming tomorrow. Hey, it's going to be war. Another person here said, this country is in a big mess. Same police that refuses to obey the court order on maintaining the status quo for enforcement of tinted glass permit because it was not seen served on them. Want people to obey a secret order that they obtain that has not been served on the person. This other person here says, so you and Showore go they deceive innocent children, vulnerable citizens. The tomorrow you be on Channels TV with your rabbit voice talking about justice for shit after misleading citizens into breaking the law. So guys, we are going to see how it's going to happen. Police, they fear protests against injustice against the ordinary Nigerians, but support participate in the one that are pro government. Shame. You are one of the most delusional lawyer I've ever seen in my life, always pushing your gullible followers to trouble. Another person say, damnable zoology republic, zoo animal, the most useless and worst country on earth. And this person says, so the Nigerian police force can now make a clue from their Nepal and Madagascar counterparts. And this person, criminals by those who should uphold justice. Sad. It's a pity that people like you always have something upstairs, and now the real is not judiciary. Judicial system of Nigeria is dead. Anyway, guys, these are some of the reactions from Nigerians after the Nigerian police has come out to say they should just quit the protest that is scheduled to hold tomorrow. And Barrister Effiong is telling them to show him evidence of the courts, issuing an order that the protest shouldn't hold. And now Nigerians are reacting. Let me know your own reaction in the comment section below. Please don't forget to subscribe and turn on the bell notification. Thank you.